Alright.
Alright.
Alright. Hello, wisdom seekers. This is the Wisdom Project for AP Lang. Everybody, introduce yourself.
Caleb Wilson. I'm junior at Webster Thomas High School.
Yep. Ethan Wadera, junior, Webster Thomas High School.
I'm Tyler Stewart. I'm also a junior in the school. Yeah.
Nice. So, everybody, wisdom, pretty broad topic. So, just give me a definition. What do you think of wisdom?
Tyler, you can take that one.
You want me to take it?
And make sure we use our big boy voices because we need to project.
Yeah, it's a good point. Wisdom's just kind of like how you figure out things. Like, it's like your solving abilities, in my opinion. It's not like
Agreed.
It's not like an exact thing.
I think one's wisdom can definitely grow over time. Like my grandpa, I think he has great wisdom, but because he served in the war.
All right.
Yeah, he obviously got past that obstacle. Yeah.
So, as you can see, there's many different interpretations of what wisdom can mean. In the book I read, Atomic Habits,
Who's that by?
James Clear, very intelligent man.
Well, that's tough.
James Clear, right? So, in this book, it talks about a lot of habit forming, and one thing that really caught my attention was the Polgar sisters. You know anything about the Polgar sisters?
Never heard of them.
So basically, there was this professor, right? Pretty sure he was a Hungarian professor, right? And he had this assumption that geniuses were made; they were not born. There's no such thing as a natural aptitude for being a genius, right? There was no you're born and then you're all of a sudden you're just a genius. They're made, right? It's a product of your environment. So he conducted this experiment. He had 3 children. He had 3 children with his wife, all daughters. And from birth, they were completely surrounded by chess, right? Chess for breakfast, chess for lunch, chess for dinner, everything, right? They were
Snack time too.
snack time too, chess.
Right.
And pretty much surrounded their entire lives oriented around just playing chess, learning, and competing, right? And the results from this experiment were completely outstanding. All 3 sisters grew to be an amazing skill level in chess. I have a few details about
I feel like
them.
I would be pretty good at chess too if that was all my life.
Exactly, this is exactly his hypothesis. By age 21,
think that's like how that works.
By age 21, Susan, one of the sisters, was the first ever to earn the title of Grandmaster from the World Chess Federation. In 2002, her sister Judith, ranked 8th in the world, won against the reigning chess champion Garry Kasparov. Insanely great player, and the fact that these women, I'm pretty sure one of the sisters was, I think, ranked number 1 for 20 consecutive years. All earning the ranks of Grandmaster. Absolutely astonishing.
Oh,
So,
that's like Magnus Carlsen.
yeah, pretty much.
Heard of that guy.
It's like me in Overwatch. Yeah, Grandmaster.
Yeah, that's like me when I do like bench press.
So pretty much, Polgar believed that a genius was not born, but educated and trained, rejected the ideas of innate talent. The success of the sisters was outstanding, the youngest being regarded as the strongest female chess player of all time.
Why? Because she was surrounded by
Because she
more
was
resources as like her sisters.
That's actually a great point. The fact that the youngest was could considered to be the greatest success could be contributed to her sisters already being an even greater influence on her development.
It's like how with birds, when they're in the V, the front one takes like most of the air resistance, right?
Yep.
And the ones behind it, they're going fast.
That does make sense. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good analogy. I really respect that. So on to the key points that I really wanted to stress. To kind of prove the point, the idea.
Prove or just help?
Prove my point. Actually, I wanna kind of push my ideas upon.
That's really hard to prove.
Like supports your point.
Support my point that the idea that really the question on how our environment, our upbringing from youth, develops our character, our success, how well we can. Our virtuous character, some would say, and our just success entirely. So the first key point that I want to touch on is that the actual genetic mutations have the impact that genetic mutations have on us versus our environment.
Whose genetic mutations?
So the genetic mutations in the sense that I might have a genetic difference than you or Tyler might, and an example.
Tyler definitely has.
An example of this. an example of this is the ability to digest lactose.
Okay.
So some people are able to digest lactose into their adult age, and it's what contributes to this is a very small genetic
It's
change.
of the beta galactose lactate.
Yeah, it's a very small genetic change that differentiates.
You would not know that. There's
Yes, I did.
bro.
So in a TEDx,
it's
guys, let's stay on topic, please. And in the TEDx talk by Irene Galeo Romero, an assistant professor at Nanyang Technological University at Singapore, who is a human evolutionary biologist.
Yup.
That's me.
She showed how people mainly of European descent are able to digest milk, kind of have this genetic mutation in their genes, and this is mainly because milk and
they
dairy
got cows up
products.
there.
Exactly. They're very prominent in Europe,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
So
the goats that climb the mountains.
yeah, exactly, in Europe, in the Naples, whatever. So
Naples.
because this
You mean the Alps?
because this genetic mutation is relates to a more nutritious diet. So because they have this mutation, they're able to digest milk. They have a more nutritious diet. It helps in their development. So people who possess this trait will be more likely to survive and pass on trait. So it's more prominent, showing how the environment truly impacts the suitability of our genes, and it's not the other way around. So when you first see that, you might think that you have these genes and they impact our kind of what we're able to do. It kind of shows how nature is more overpowering than nurture, but it's truly that nurture, our environment, how we're brought up, really determines the suitability of these genes, because in places like Asia and Africa,
Exactly.
where people don't have this gene, it's not suitable because they don't have a need for this. It renders the gene pretty much
But yeah, like if you might have this gene, but like, what's the point?
Exactly.
If like you can't afford milk.
exactly if you can't, or not really afford, but if it's not part of the diet, it renders the gene pretty much completely useless.
It's a
and
waste.
It's
a waste of ATP.
kind of, yeah. So it shows how it's important to consider the biological hand that you're given, but truly it's the environment that impacts this. It's the environment that impacts this, which determines the suitability of these genes. So, which relates to our next key point, that genes are influenced by your environment, and the environment will favor genes that ensure survival. Right.
Wait. Your environment will favor genes that are
Well,
that's
ensure
biology,
survival.
buddy. That's
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Biology. So your environment will favor genes that ensure survival. So if you grow up in a household, going back to chess, if you grow up in a household that absolutely praises your chess abilities, you're gonna be more likely, and you're gonna want to further extrapolate on your chess abilities. So if you're being praised from youth in order to have these chess abilities, you're more likely to follow through with it, have fun with it, and be successful, showing how our environment from a young age not only impacts our genetic abilities, but forms them so we can have success. Kind of further showing how the impact of our environment is it has a larger impression than our genetic composition. So my next point is that it's silly to argue the point that nature has no say in the development of certain success. Basically, what I'm saying is that at the start of this project, I was dead set on the idea of nurture, of how it's not, your genetics don't determine your success, and it's purely environment. It's how you're brought up that determines your success. I was dead set on that because that's what I wanted to believe in, because that makes logical sense to me. But it's silly to argue that point, because nature does have a role in that, however little it may be. There was a study done by the GWA.
What's the GWA?
Oh shoot, GWA.
Global Workspace.
Global Workspace. The Wingfall World Tour.
Oh, it's the Genome-Wide Association. It's
Wikipedia.
It's an observational study of genome-wide genetic variants.
Okay.
So it's an organization that studies on
Genomes.
genomes, or your genetics, right? So this study, there was an intelligence study which included 18,000 children. They found no genome-wide significant associations. The largest effect size only accounted for 0.2% of the various intelligence scores. So out of
That's
all,
such a small. That's way out of the conference interval. You know what
exactly.
I mean? That's,
The 18,000 children that they that did this research on, they found that the kids who did have a variance in genes associated with intelligence only had a differentiation of about 0.2% for intelligence scores, which is an extremely small number, almost considering.
That's about average.
yeah, probably. Yeah. But do you think you know at least one of the people that run this study? Like 18,000, you got to know at least one.
No, there's like triple the people in the town, bro. Like, what?
All right.
I know, but you got to know
Okay.
at least one person.
All right. The point is, okay. And another recent GWA study of the sample found that 1,500 children reported an association that accounted for 0.5 of the variance intelligence score. This is such a small number that it's almost negligible. Like
That's a very negligible number.
exactly.
Like what? Well, like how many is that? That's like
On God.
On if you were gonna consider it on a test out of 100% score, it wouldn't even consider. It's not even 0.5% of difference between these genes that they found that are related to intelligence. So basically, one kid that doesn't have this intelligent gene and another kid who does. The one that does, or is supposed to be technically have more capability for a higher intelligence, is only scoring about 0.02% higher than the kid that doesn't. This is kind of debunking the idea of genetic destiny, as you would call it, or genetic destiny. Genetic destiny is pretty much bullcrap, at least according to the study.
You just gotta have that dog in you.
Pretty much, it's
doohickey.
the genetic destiny that some people kind of refer to is the idea that like, oh, I'm just not as smart as him, so I can't do as well on the test. That's just not true.
But I mean, it could be true. It totally depends on your upbringing.
Yeah, there's a
Exactly.
There's a 0.02% chance.
No. Caleb makes a great point here that it is based on your upbringing. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to nail home here.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not going to stand a chance against Ethan Wadera. His parents are doctors, an amazing man, and I'm nothing.
Hey, it's okay, dude. Because no matter what and no matter where you are, you can still change your environment, change your habits.
Well, like, don't you think you're kind of past that point? But if you're at this age where you can understand what you're saying right now, you're kind of past that point of changing anything.
Not really. I disagree because the book that I'm reading, Atomic Habits, shows how you can implement these habits in your life right now that can further strengthen your character, your intelligence, and from any point where you are, you can then implement these good habits while eradicating bad habits that may be dragging you down.
I should probably read this book.
You should. Atomic Habits, full of wisdom.
How many pages is it?
Yeah.
210 maybe? 210?
210?
But no, there's a bunch of graphs and diagrams. It's a good read. It's a good read.
210?
Exactly. So, the point that I was going back to, it's silly to argue against the point that nature has no say in development and certain success.
Nature has all say in development. That's what we just said.
Well, what we're saying is the nature, the genetic differences that had in the children.
I'm sorry, environment.
They were very small, but the vast majority of the differences in intelligence that we see in school today comes from upbringing.
And honestly, if you just stand strong and believe in yourself and chase your dreams, I don't think anything.
Quite literally, it's really the mental side of things. Your mental fortitude or the nurture that was instilled to you by your parents from youth is the main dominant factor that can really decide how successful you can be in life. So, going on, say.
But it's not all what your parents instill on you. I mean, you gotta totally think of environmental factors. If you were born homeless,
Yep.
you're fighting for every meal. You're scrapping on the streets.
Yeah.
You're obviously gonna. That's not necessarily your parents' fault. And still,
Caleb, I'm so glad you brought this up because that falls into the category of environmental upbringing. Of course, if you have no parents or your parents are gone from a young age, then this is of course going to have detrimental effects on your character.
Definitely.
And how you're brought up. Because if you have no figures in your life instilling these ideas and habits that they find valuable into your life, then it's going to be detrimental to the way you perceive not just your actions, but how you view yourself in the world
100%.
and how you and that actually ties really nicely into this the point I have. I found that many sources relate to the fact that in a low income context,
Yep.
similar to what you were talking about, maybe your family is impoverished, or you're having a difficult time. Your parents are scrapping. They're really trying to provide for you, and they're working long hours. In a low income context, it's often true that there's an increased level of stress present, and which
Yes.
would lead to an increase of procrastination. Maybe not voluntarily. Maybe not something that your parents would want, but
What's the fucking thing?
the fact that it's not much. I just have a few more key points.
Okay.
The fact that they have to value free time over being able to. So, in order to have a complex, give your kids a complex education, you have to value free time. Like being able to read to your children to form more complex education is one example. But increased amount of stressors present in low-income families decrease the return on time investment in early childhood. So, low-income families have trouble converting what they wish to do into what they actually want to do, which is another example of the environmental factor and how that plays into your life, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, so I have a few more key points that I want to touch on,
How
and then we
many?
can close this up. Just two more. Okay, so genetics are not predetermining, but they are predisposing. What I mean by this is things like your physical attributes and your body composition. This is just one example. Can determine what sports you play, for example. And an example I have for this is the comparison between El Garouge and Michael Phelps. You know any of these people?
Yeah, Michael Phelps.
Michael
People
Phelps.
say I look like him.
That's actually true. Michael Phelps has quite a tall stature, 6'4", muscular, long limbs.
Sounds like me.
He's built like a fish, pretty much. Perfectly suited for swimming. He's the most decorated Olympic athlete.
I wouldn't say
of
he's
all
the
time.
most.
Well, it's just a
He
fact
is,
that
he is.
that's a
Is he-
fact.
is he
Yeah.
really
He has
the
gold medal,
most?
dog.
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah.
What about like Stephen Curry?
He's not an Olympic athlete.
Anyways, most decorated Olympic athlete. He's built for swimming. His body composition is quite literally perfect, right? Compare that to El Garouge, very good mid-distance runner, who's won gold at the Olympics for mid-distance. He's more shorter in stature. He's much leaner, around 130 pounds. And he's built for mid-distance running. If you're going to flip these two guys' positions, put El Garouge in the water and Michael Phelps on the track, even with the same amount of training for both of them relating to swimming and track, they're not going to do nearly as good as the other athletes, simply because they don't have the same body composition. Because of their body composition is so much different, their genetics predetermined how their body was going to be developed. It then related to how well they're able to do in their respective sports. So if you were born with kind of the composition of that of a swimmer, it might rule out other things in your life. Like maybe I can't be like a polo player, whatever they do on the horse or the thing. Maybe I can't do that, but that doesn't limit the things that you can do. There's still a wide, vast majority of things, and people kind of take this into because I'm sure I can't be good at blah blah blah. It's really not true. It doesn't limit what you can do, but it could rule out a few things. So it's that.
Yeah, I thought you just said that it does limit what you can do with that comparison.
Genetics aren't predetermining, but they are predisposing. So the idea that you can rule out some things in your life, but it doesn't limit the wide variety of options that are still left for you.
Yeah, no, it seems like it does limit it, because like, say I were like Shaq's height. Say I were like Shaq, and I tried to do freaking say I was Shaq. How tall was he?
I don't know, like 7'3".
7'3". How much did Shaq weigh?
I'm not sure, but that's kind of going off topic.
He's like-
Exactly. He was a
like
big
280,
dude.
bro.
If I was Shaq, I would have zero future ever running sprints in track.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So another topic I want to kind of touch on is the genetic destiny.
Yep.
An example of this is cancer. cancer is straightforward a genetic mutation, right?
Yep.
And if you're born with this genetic mutation, you have cancer. There's nothing you can really do about that, but you can impact your environment, which then directly relates to your chances of concepting cancer. So, because cancer is caused by a genetic mutation, this genetic mutation is further insinuated by choices you make, like smoking, poor diet, and poor decisions. So, if I were to make really bad decisions all my life, smoking, bad diet, I have much higher chance of getting cancer, even though I might not have been genetically predetermined to do so.
Yep.
Showing how, and this kind of ties into habit forming, right? Many of the things we do each day, like the decisions we make, which can then insinuate our success and upbringing, and the things we do each day are a result of years of habits integrated in our subconscious. These, of course, coming from environment, more specifically our upbringing. So our parents, of course, instill these fundamental habits into us from a young age. Right? You can think of many things that you've done from a young age that your parents have instilled into you. There's a short passage that I got from this book. From the book Atomic Habits, there's just a short passage, and then I'm going to close on this topic and give my final thoughts. We don't choose our earliest habits, we imitate them. We follow the script handed down by our friends and family, our church or school, our local community, and society at large. Each of these cultures and groups comes with its own set of expectations and standards. When and whether to get married, how many children to have, which holidays to celebrate, how much money to spend on your child's birthday party. In many ways, these social norms are the invisible rules that guide your behavior each day. You're always keeping them in mind, even if they're not at the top of your mind. Often you follow the habits of your culture without thinking, without questioning, and sometimes without remembering. As a French philosopher, Michael de Montaigne wrote, "These customs and practice of life and society sweep us along." Showing how these fundamental habits instilled to us by our upbringing, our youth, and our environment fundamentally alter the course and success that we have as we go into adulthood. If we are instilled with great habits, study habits, maybe, studying habits. We're taught to exercise from young, to be virtuous, respectful to others. If these are instilled to you from youth, then you're going to continue to subconsciously follow these habits into your adulthood. They're going to cement themselves further and further into your subconscious, just making you a more virtuous citizen, whole, other than, let's say, your a father figure, a mother figure is absent in your early life, or they're simply not there. Maybe a more impoverished lifestyle where your parents have to be working and you're subject to the habits influenced by that of the public education system, or that of just others in a like-minded state. It might not be as well off as you were continually focused on these kind of upholding behaviors that can really either be detrimental or lead to prosperity in your life. So just to kind of close and give my final thoughts, is that genetics do play a role, right? Genetics do play a role, however small. It's silly to argue that they don't, right? There's, of course, exceptions to the idea that it's purely environment, which is people, you might be born with Down syndrome, you might be born with autism, you might from birth have Huntington's disease. It's a purely hereditary disease, which is your brain's nervous cells, they just completely deteriorate. These are, of course, things that have a very high possibility of happening, right? And these are all genetic things that you inherit, right? So you can't say it's 100% environment. And there are certain genes that maybe contribute to a slightly higher aptitude, but for the most part, the extremely mass majority of the success and character that you develop is truly from your environment, from the people that you surround yourself with, from the ideas that your parents instill into you from an early age, and from truly just your, even coming down to your geography, the cultures and the ideals that are found in your region also contribute to your upbringing, to your success, and just your overall life. So, anybody else? Final thoughts?
I thought that was great.
That was exactly what I was gonna say. Yep.
So from this book and the multiple different sources I had, I found this wisdom, and it was very interesting to
I'll
me.
be reading.
Be reading.
That was good.
Anyway, guys, check out Atomic Habits. Great book. Until then, I'll see ya. Hope you enjoyed.
You better pay me, bro. You better pay me.